right. Welcome back to Agritecture's digital conference series. I'm Ricky Stevens, and I have Liz Carollo here from GrowNYC's Green Markets program. So Liz, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, and we'll get into the situation going on right now in New York as it relates to farmers markets.
Great. Hi, Ricky. Thanks. My name is Liz Carollo. I'm the Assistant Director of Greenmarket. Greenmarket's a program of GrowNYC, a New York City-based nonprofit that works in all 5 boroughs. I have to start off by saying Happy Earth Day. Happy Earth Day, everybody. GrowNYC was founded after the first Earth Day protests that happened in 1970. There was a group of citizens who got together and decided they wanted to work on some issues impacting the city. Environmentally, they started the Council on the Environment of New York City and was basically like a think tank for the mayor's office, and over time became a more programmatic we operate as an independent nonprofit, and now we provide tons of essential services for the city in the form of environmental programs like markets and community gardens, recycling, education, that type of thing.
Great. And how about specifically with green markets? What's your role, and how long have you been there?
This is my 13th year at Green Market. I am the assistant director, and I specifically focus on markets and work in conjunction with our operations manager. Right now, that typically involves safety, implementing our COVID safety protocols. But in general, it means overseeing our press and communications, market programming and activities, special events, partnerships, that type of thing. We operate over 50 farmers markets throughout the 5 boroughs. So each market has its own personality, its own outreach plan, its own partners. We have staff at each. We have regional coordinators that supervise those staff at each. So it's a big system. This is the time of year where we're typically planning our opening of our seasonal markets. So we're still able to do a little bit of that while also pivoting into running markets during, pandemic.
Great. And you mentioned this a little bit, but just for our audience outside of New York to get a sense of scale for how big the green markets are and the impact that they have in the city, do you know roughly like how many farms or farmers you're working with collectively at your markets, or maybe how many shoppers pass by in a typical week?
Sure. We have almost 250 producers that participate in our program. So we're a producer-only farmers market. So you're not going to be able to go to a farmer's, at least a green market in New York City, and buy, t-shirts and sunglasses. You won't even be able to buy like a pizza out of a wood-burning stove or any prepared foods of that sort. We have farmers selling farm-based products for the most part. We have farmers selling fruits and vegetables, of course. Fishermen from the Mid-Atlantic region coming in and selling fresh seafood, livestock producers selling meat and dairy. So that is kind of like a beautiful thing about being in the market, is that you're there to just shop for your ingredients for dinner. And it's very consistent in that way. The farmers that sell in our program have to reapply every single year. We have very strict eligibility. You have to be within our region, which is about a 200-mile radius around Poughkeepsie. About 70% of our producers are coming from New York State. The majority of those come from the Hudson Valley, but we have 6 Northeast states represented at market. Those are the markets in a nutshell. Many of the producers attend multiple market days. Union Square alone on not right now, but on a normal sunny summer day, we'll have over 300,000 people walking through. Across markets, easily over 500,000 a week, people walking through and shopping. Things have changed very rapidly in that regard in the last month or so, but still people are out and getting their shopping done just quicker.
Yeah, so tell us it's a good transition. Tell us a little bit about what's changed with green markets since COVID-19 has hit. I guess both from just an operational standpoint, and then we can get a little bit more into just numbers and types of products, that categories that might be changing in terms of consumer purchasing habits and things like that.
Sure. I mean, immediately we shifted into just safety mode. So just to explain the markets a little bit, we have over 50 markets that are open, like July 1 through Thanksgiving, we're in full operation. But during the winter time, only about half of our markets are open, which is still impressive. It's a Northeast winter, and there's 25 or so farmers markets operating. They're smaller than what they are in the summer because they don't have all the, we're producer only in the Northeast. So all the fresh product that is coming out of the ground, the produce, fruits and vegetables, it's mostly in terms of that storage crops. So they are smaller, and March and April are generally the slower months before we kick off the season. We also have probably only about half of our producers attend in the winter, and the other half come back in May and June, and those are like mostly our fruit and vegetable growers. What was the other question there?
I guess just operationally,
what happened? Right. Sorry.
Yeah.
So about, I think it was March 13th was maybe our last day at the office. We quickly pivoted. I mean, we have a luxury of being able to do that. We're extremely nimble and adaptable. We operate so nomadically as it is. If you go to Union Square on Thursday night, it is just a huge empty plaza, and by Friday morning at 6, 7 a.m., you'll have 50, 60 producers who are there and setting up, and then they're gone by the afternoon, and no trace of them is left. So we are able to operate in a very adaptable way. We immediately tried to get ahead of the curve in terms of safety. We stopped, like that very first week, we stopped sampling. I mean, honestly, to the surprise of many customers, our own staff, our producer community, we're like, well, is that totally necessary? And within a couple of weeks, everyone was like, okay, we get it. But yeah, we stopped sampling. We stopped allowing customers to touch the products. If you go to the market now, you can see that the farmers have gotten really savvy with it. There's plexiglass, there's fencing, there's tape up, there's signage everywhere. So we got signage printed for them that say, like, please don't touch the products, let us serve you. So we did everything we could to kind of start implementing the rules. And then of course, as other things rolled out, like the 6-foot distancing, wearing a mask, we implemented those as they became known to us through city and state regulations. But from the very beginning, we wanted to stay open. We did everything we could to show that we could be a safe place to shop, and it worked. I mean, when the list of essential businesses came out, farmers markets were on there, and we were able to. You can still go out, and for a lot of people, it's nice to shop outside in the fresh air. And if we are making them feel safe, and we're chalking out lines to go into individual farm stands. A handful of markets, we're closing the perimeter, and we have a line that goes outside of the market, and we're letting one in, one out. It is a huge lift for sure, staff-wise. We've had to redeploy multiple staff within GrowNYC to help with our food access points to make all of this happen. But luckily, very devoted staff, and everyone was interested in helping out.
That's great. Do you guys rely on volunteers for your markets, or is it actual staff members, or is it a mix?
For the most part, just staff. In the height of the summer, we rely heavily on volunteers in general for, on a normal summer day, we have volunteers there helping with cooking demos and customer counts and general customer interaction and service. We accept credit cards and debit cards through a token system, so we'll have volunteers help with that, general outreach, that kind of thing. We held off on volunteers at the very beginning of this, for the most part, trying to minimize bodies in the market and exposure, of course. And then as we kind of got settled in and we started doing the 6-foot distancing, and we realized we needed some more help at the market just to the, social distancing monitors, help chalk in the morning, that kind of thing. Then we started doing calls out to some of our longtime volunteers to assist with that. We have not brought on new volunteers for anything because we require an orientation and we're unable to do that at the moment. But luckily we have a pool of thousands of volunteers who have helped us in the past. So we've had some luck getting some of those folks out to help us.
Got it.
But in general, yeah, paid staff running the markets right now.
Okay. So I want to shift a little bit into what you're seeing from like a numbers standpoint, or maybe anecdotally from what you're hearing from farmers. Are sales generally up or down? Does it depend on location? Does it depend on what those farms are typically selling? What are you guys seeing from that standpoint?
At first, when we were told that there might be a shelter in place, like at the beginning of March, really, and people started going out and stocking their pantry, we saw that in full force at the market. GrowNYC runs a grains project where we aggregate grains, beans, and flours from around the region and sell at Union Square Wednesdays and Saturdays, and then have satellite sales days at various markets on the weekends. They could not keep up with demand. I mean, people were selling out of grains, beans, and flours every market day. The other producers, anybody at market was selling out, especially meat. People just seem to be like loading up their freezers with meat products. But really everyone was doing okay, except maybe some of like the grab and go items that aren't necessarily storage friendly. But I honestly, for the most part, in those few weeks, the markets were packed and people were loading their pantries and getting stocked up. As the shelter in place came in, it definitely got quieter. But I think people were still showing up early and still restocking. The meat producers continue to do really well, although are struggling with their processing facilities and keeping up with that demand. But I would say dairy and meat still doing very well. Produce right now, like I said, it would be our slowest time anyway. If they're selling for the most part storage crops that are and apples from the fall that are stored. And this is kind of the time of year where we start to run out of those things and transition to spring. So more foraged items, bitter greens, some wintered over broccoli rabe. You start to see some stuff that's coming out of the ground, and over the next month, that is going to get way more. Asparagus, strawberries, some of the fresh product is going to start coming in. So the vegetable guys were still doing fine, but sales definitely just kind of tapered off as the shelter in place happened. I will say the people that are showing up at market still to shop are loading up, so that's been good. So even if there are less shoppers in the market overall, the ones that are going are like, you can watch them just leave the market with just like bags and bags of food to head home. Restaurant sales have been a killer. I mean, the restaurant industry being gutted the way it has been devastating across the board. Some of our farmers have lost, that's 60% of their sales. That makes coming to Union Square on a rainy day worth it if customers don't show up, but the restaurants always do. We're doing everything we can to promote the restaurants that are staying open for takeout and pickup, and but the loss of restaurant sales for our producers has been tough. The first 2 weeks of all of this happening, a colleague of mine, Eric Hasser, and I spent a lot of time putting together a directory, which we didn't have before and now has about 120 of our producers listed on it. And it's how you can do pre-order, pre-order for pickup at market, home delivery, who uses a third party for delivery, who does shipping, if it's like jams and honey and maple syrup. Over 50 of our producers do shipping directly to people's homes with their value-added products. So we quickly pivoted and we're like, well, if people aren't comfortable going to the market, we are going to help them get the farm product that they're used to receiving. So yeah, I think like sales in general, time will tell, because this would normally be the slowest time, and May and June would normally be a very, very busy time. And we'll see as the months come in. But we've created safe marketplaces. So, and I think people are probably bursting to get out of their apartments as soon as they're allowed to. So my guess is the markets will be busy, and the farmers will do okay this year.
Yeah. What are you hearing from, I guess, from consumers and shoppers mainly? Is it, I guess, the ones that are coming out, are you getting feedback that this is actually like they're enjoying the shopping experience better than going to the supermarket right now, which can be really stress inducing and can have really long waits? Are some of them, I guess, concerned because they're maybe able to get generally a wider selection of things at the supermarket than at a farmer's market? Like, what are some of the things that you're just generally hearing from them as to their concerns?
The feedback I've received at market, so from the times I've been at market, or we also have a daily report that our on-site staff submits every day. So we're getting notes from every single market day that we read in the mornings. The overall response has been so positive, and we've done everything we can to collect that. I mean, we've gotten a ton of positive press. We've collected all of that, all of the social media posts of people thanking us while we're at market. It's a constant stream of people just being appreciative to be able to shop outside, to be able to know, people who are devoted to us already, know where their food comes from, understand that our supply chain is shorter, less hands touching a product on its way to the market. So overall, and then I receive all the emails that are coming in with questions and comments. So overwhelmingly positive. Every once in a while, I would say the only negative is, like, sometimes there's just people out there that think that we're all going overboard safety wise. I think that's common, not as common in New York, but still there. And so sometimes we'll have people who are, just like, this is out of control. Why do I have to wear a mask? Or why can't I touch the product or something? But it's so few and far between, and it pales in comparison to the positive response we've received from the customers who can see the work that we're putting in, who understand the exposure our staff is experiencing by being out at market every day. Like, they can see it and they're appreciative.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
And what about on the farmer side? What are some of the things? I mean, you mentioned the loss in restaurant sales. What are any other concerns that you're hearing from them, especially as we move, into spring and busy season?
I mean, leading up to now, labor is always an issue every year, but weather has always, in the last few years, weather is the number one issue, or for farmers since the beginning of farming, but lately more than ever because of some of the more erratic storms. The transition has definitely been to restaurant sales, labor. A lot of people, we had in the very beginning, almost 50 of our producers decide to not come into market. They either had a labor shortage where their staff didn't want to go to market and sell, wow, or that they themselves, wanted to stay home. And then that really only lasted a couple of weeks. More and more over the last 2 to 3 weeks, the farmers have been figuring out staffing, coming back, and attending market on a more regular basis. I mean, a lot of people just did really well leading up to this already because people were stocking up. So taking a couple week break was feasible for some. But yeah, I would say labor and restaurant sales, and, just general worry. Like, a lot of times the producers will get here and see everything we've implemented safety wise, see the customers out there shopping and feel a little bit better about everything. But when they're at home, not knowing what's happening in the city and all you see is the news, it can give you a lot more anxiety than just actually being at market and seeing your customers and, knowing, oh, everyone's wearing a mask and nobody's coming near the stand, and there's a lot of safety protocols in place to protect everyone. And I think once they see that, there's definitely less anxiety. but yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think everyone feels apprehensive about how the rest of the season goes, but I certainly feel optimistic about it, just knowing our team and knowing what we've implemented so far.
That's good.
Mhm.
And then what about like long term? I want to just ask you about what you're thinking in terms of long term ramifications or maybe even opportunities that come from this. Are you guys thinking about, the role that new types of technology solutions could play? For example, I met some folks a year or two ago that a couple different startups that were trying to figure out ways to work with farmers markets where customers could pre-order and then pick up at the farmers market. This was obviously pre-COVID-19, but just as a way of, sometimes the farmers market can be a little bit slower. It has a little bit more of a small town feel to it every time you go. For some New Yorkers, they don't want to deal with that. Are those types of solutions things that you guys are looking into, or has it just been right now like, hey, we haven't had time to really think about too far ahead. We're just trying to keep our heads down and make sure things are operating and people are safe?
I think we immediately started thinking about tech solutions, which is why we put the directory together. And we were pleased to find that a lot of our farmers already had a system in place for either shipping, or they already have a CSA that we could help promote, or a pre-order system. We work directly with a company called Fellow Farmer. They're great. We're working on onboarding many more of our producers right now. They're a third party who allows for pre-order and aggregation of product. And they're listed in the directory with a handful of farmers who are already utilizing their services, and we're onboarding even more producers. Now, that was a project that we've been working on for about 2 years, and then as soon as this happened, we were like, "Cool, yeah, we're going to kick this one into high gear." And so that's happened. And so in that way, it's been good that it's helped us focus on markets and how to just help farmers stay safe and sell out and go home with empty trucks, which is always our goal. But now we can just like focus on it a little more. And I think like tech definitely helps. Our app, we have an app for Union Square that just tells you on the morning of a market what farmers are there and what products are there, down to like the detailed varieties. And it provides a map of the market for the day. And usage is up 4 times. I get a daily report about app usage, and people are on it, for a couple minutes at a time, checking in. But the usage is just like skyrocketed. So I know that tech plays a huge part of this, and of course social media and just being able to get information out to customers in real time quickly. But certainly utilizing pre-orders and third parties for delivery, like we don't have that expertise. We operate markets, and we're really good at operating markets, but we do need additional help for the tech stuff. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so last question. I know you said there's over 50 farmers markets that you guys operate. I know you guys have had a focus of trying to make sure that they're accessible and that they're in a wide range of communities. So, and you guys accept like SNAP and EBT at some of your markets as well. Talk to me a little bit about what's happening in some of these maybe lower income communities where we're seeing huge rates of unemployment already, and that's obviously going to continue. Is there special attention being put on those markets? What are you guys seeing, I guess, in those communities?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you brought it up, because this comes up as like a common misperception around green market, farmers markets in general, farmers markets in New York City. And, Union Square is our flagship market. It's been there since 1976. There's, on a Saturday, there's 80 producers. We have 10 staff there. They run a very tight ship. Tons of customers, tourists, everybody coming through on a busy summer day. And it's wonderful. And you can go on a Wednesday morning and see all the chefs shopping and and it gets a lot of press and attention and film crews, and it's wonderful. I'll never ever apologize for Union Square. It keeps many farms in business. I love it. But we have 50 other markets that we operate throughout the 5 boroughs, and they are the heart and soul of Greenmarket. We operate, and I find sometimes people talk about Union Square or farmers markets and just say like, oh, well, they're expensive or they're elitist. And I'm like, oh, it's only people who have ever been to a specific market, or like they, saw like a $5 heirloom tomato and thought, oh, that's not for me or whatever. But like, you got to go to 175th Street in Washington Heights on a July day and see the droves of customers who are there and have been going there every Thursday for 30 years, or our Corona market on Fridays in Queens in the summer, where it's like you can't even get to the table. It's just like 10 deep at each stand buying fruits and vegetables, or Poe Park in the Bronx. I mean, all of these markets are just like wonderful community spaces that reflect the diversity of New York City. They're fruits and vegetables at very affordable prices, definitely the highest quality fruits and vegetables you can get in New York City, culturally appropriate foods. So that is like constantly my plea to people when I hear some of the misconceptions is like, just go to other markets and continue to do that. And yeah, like you said, we have SNAP, we accept SNAP at every single one of our markets, farm stands and food box sites. At farm stands and green markets, SNAP users receive an extra $2 to spend on fruits and vegetables for every $5 spent. So if you get $20 in SNAP, or if you get $20 in SNAP out, you get $8 extra to spend on fruits and vegetables. And there's a 40% increase in your buying power at the market. That's really significant. And so that, of course that program continues, and of course more people are going to be joining the SNAP program over the next few months, and we're here. I think some of the changes across the board that are going to happen, I mean, we're seeing it now. People are having to cook at home, not everybody like loves to cook or has cooking skills, but you start to learn that like, if you have decent ingredients that taste good already, you don't have to do a lot to them. So we're encouraging people to just come to the market, pick up some fresh produce, and then you're cooking at home anyway, you may as well have the best ingredients to do it with. So I think some of the changes that will happen will definitely be people thinking about supply chains, where their money is going, supporting small farms, supporting local economies, things that we promote every single day. I think there will be, people are rethinking that. And honestly, we saw it a little bit after the 2008 crash as well, a refocus on markets and community, and knowing your farmer and knowing where your food came from, and just like a tightening of that a little bit. So I expect to see that a lot more, and we're here for it. We're here to provide that space for everybody.
Great. Well, Liz, I want to thank you so much. I know you and your staff, I'm sure, have been working tirelessly the last couple months. So thanks for all that you guys are doing to keep everyone safe and to continue allowing farmers to have access to their normal markets, and for consumers to access healthy and fresh food. So
great. Thanks for having me.